my page is caught up and everything is fine here. I hope you're having a great Friday night, Saturday morning, wherever it is that you happen to be watching from. Just checking that my volume is right. Wait for a couple of people to, there you go, that volume seems fine. Waiting for a few people to pop on. As usual, when you pop on, please let me know, who you are and where you're watching from. I love to know how far abroad my videos reach. I see a couple popping on. That's great. Before we get crafting, actually, I'll show you first of all what we're going to craft together today. We're going to do 3 cards, similar but different but similar. Anyway, yeah, so they're all following a very similar sort of model. These, if you didn't see my video last Saturday, I was surprised as anything that my husband, who usually doesn't poo-poo what I do, but doesn't take very much notice of it, he actually asked me to make him some fundraising cards for his next fundraising swim. So here in Australia, it's called the MS Mega Swim. So it's sort of like a big swim relay where you do in teams and you swim for 24 hours as a team or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, so he's going to raise some money for the MS Mega Swim using some cards that he actually asked me to make, which I nearly fell over because, as I say, it's not usually something that comes onto his radar. But anyway, so these are the 3 cards. This is the final 3. I've actually designed 5 altogether. So I showed you the first 2 last week, and we're going to do this 3 here together. So remember, the criteria for these cards were that I can reproduce them quickly without too much hassle, hopefully using my Stamparatus a fair bit, sort of bulk producing. Hopefully he's going to need a lot of them with his fundraising. So it's, and these will be very handy. Just excuse me while I move my chair. Handy for you guys as well if you're creating lots of cards for family and friends over the Christmas break or leading up to the Christmas break. One thing before we start, I'll give you a sneak peek. This is the first proper look at the cards I have designed for my product class, which is my, what month we in? August product class. We're using the Texture Chic bundle or suite. So this uses bits from the whole suite. The paper particularly is a real highlight. I've got a twist easel card here, which is really, really nice. I love those soft sort of pinks and blues there. Well, it's pool party actually. It's a twist easel, so it twists up like this. So that's one there with some lovely shells and things on there and a bit of gleam there. See a bit of gilding, which is lovely. So that's one. This one's a sort of a cute little soft pastel pink, again with some gold there, using the little flowers. It's actually quite a good stamp set if you just wanted a general all-season stamp set. It's got the flowers, which you can see in this one. It's got the shells, which you can see in this one. And it's also got this like snowflake design as well, which is good for the Christmassy sort of thing. So again, with this one, I wanted to go sort of a bit sophisticated with the black and the gold with the snowflakes there as well. So you could use that for a winter birthday, or swap out that sentiment and actually use it for a Christmas card as well. So that's really nice, and that's an envelope card with a little insert there. So you could use that for just a plain card, or pop a gift card or something in there as well. So that's the product class. I will release more details about that in the coming few days, but it'll be a full set. Will be the kit to make 6, which is 2 of each, and a half serve to make 1 set of each. But as with product classes, you will need the stamp set or something very similar to produce these cards. So yeah, it's not like my fun fold class where all you need is sentiments. You will need the stamp set for that one. Okay, so let's get some crafting now that we've got that out of the way. We'll start some crafting. Might start with this cute little Christmas Scotty card. Christmas Scotty bundle is so cute. It's in the current mini catalogue. It comes with the stamp set. Yeah, Rebecca, he will. I'll pop it up on my page, but I'll pop it up on all my pages as well. So my group and everything that you're in. So just wait and see. We'll definitely be able to see when those cards go up, or these cards go up. So Scotty Christmas has a really cute little stamp set with the various Scotty dogs in various poses, and it's a punch set, which I think is great because you don't have to worry too much about having a cut and emboss machine. You can just punch away to your heart's content. And when I'm doing a class, I actually find the punches so much easier rather than having to wind things through the cut and emboss machine, which, don't get me wrong, I love. So I am actually thinking of doing, as Christmas gets closer, I'm going to do a product class with this bundle as well, so watch out for that. I don't know what's going to be in there yet. We haven't quite got that far. So anyway, this little card here, we're just going to do our little Scotty here. He's got a little ribbon around his neck and the cute sort of plaid background, which is part of the stamp set that I think I mentioned to you last time I had the Scotty dogs out, that I was going to try and use it, and this is what I've used here. Okay, so let's get making. Get everything out there. I've got everything cut, hopefully. So we've got I'll pop in there. We've got a basic white thick card base, 8 1/4 by 4 and 8 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I've scored that in half. So that's just normal, easy to reproduce, keeping in mind that's the whole name of the game with these fundraising cards, easily reproduced. Then I've got a piece of normal white cardstock, basic white, and it's cut 1/8 of an inch smaller, so it would be 4 inches by 5 3/8. That's next, so that's where all the action's going to happen. I've got a couple of scraps of white to do our little Scotty dog as well, so we'll keep this one. So as I did last week, I don't know if you watched last week, or if you'd like to catch up with last week's video, please pop on and do so. I will do all the stamping first, and because each of these cards I've popped them through the same embossing folder, I will do that last, so to speak. So I'll just pop them all through at the same time. So we'll grab out the stamp set. The only thing I need to stamp is this grid and the sentiment, and that's basic. Well, and then I have to do our little Scotty dog, of course, but I'll make sure I've got the right piece. So what we actually want to do is pop the grid sort of like center, slightly above the middle, but center there, and then I'm going to pop the sentiment down the bottom. I think actually, now I think about it, I'm going to use my Stamparatus for that, just to get it in the right place and to make sure that I can go backwards and forwards a bit to get that lovely red colour that I want with the grid. I'm going to pop my piece of paper, my piece of cardstock in there. Doesn't matter really too much where, as long as it's straightish. I'll pop the stamp in and get it centered where I want it and straight-ish. I'll bring in my top plate, got it caught on my phone there, and pop that in place. Hopefully things, that first time it does move, I notice. I don't know about you guys, it does move that first time, so you have to make sure it doesn't move too much. I think that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to grab my red ink, and in this case I'm going to use, and I've popped it away, which was a very silly thing to do, I'm going to use my cherry cobbler. Here we go. So most of these have cherry cobbler as the red. I love this sort of, it's a very festive red, I think. So I'm just going to, you're not going to be able to see that, I'll come in sideways. Going to ink up the little gingham grid and bring that in and stamp it. Oh, now where's my glider? Here it is. Don't hurt your wrists when you don't need to. Use your glider. Hope Jan's watching. Jan, are you on? I'm using your glider. Anyway, so there we are. Let's see how that went. Okay, that's not too bad. And because that has moved slightly, I don't really want to go in for a second go, because I know I'm just going to, because it did move slightly, I know I'll probably muck it up. Yeah, But that's fine. I'm happy with the darkness there. It's a little wee bit light over there, but that's okay. So we'll let that go. Okay, it'll emboss up nicely, so that's fine. So that's the grid that our little Scotty dog's going to be sitting in front of. I'm going to grab my black ink now and the sentiment, and I'm going to use the same sentiment as I did. May your days be furry and bright. Quite cute. I'm going to pop that just exactly underneath that grid. Just in under there. There we are. Okay, so that's all the stamping I want to do on that actual panel there. We might do now we've got our black ink out, we'll do our little Scotty dog and punch him, and then that will pretty much be done. There's a ribbon. I've made a little ribbon for his neck. I made it separately because I didn't want you guys to have to watch me tie ribbons. I did actually use my bow maker, my little bow maker, which is really handy for those of you who are bow challenged like me. Okay, so let's do our little Scotty dog. And I need him inked up nice and juicy. Probably could use the Stamparatus for this one as well, because we do want him nice and dark. There we are. Okay, I'm going to grab my black. He's nice and black and dark now. Very cute little Scotty dog. Now I'll grab the punch. And punch him out. So it does have a little bow that you can punch with the same punch, which is this one here. I'm not going to use that. I'm actually going to use a real bow for this particular card. Okay, so there we are. Our little Scotty dog is going to sit there just in front of that little grid, just like that, and have his little bow. But I will keep those aside because, as I say, I'm going to bring them and put them all through the embossing machine at the same time. So we'll come back to that one. Pop it aside for now and come back to it. Although my embossing machine is just down here on the floor next to me, so I could actually do it, but that's okay. It tends to knock things and move them around, so I'll do it all at once. Okay, so that's the first bit of the Christmas Scotty. Really cute. And I think he's probably, you could use him, you know, for non-Christmas as well, because he's very much like a dog lover, any dog lover really. Okay, so let's do the next one. We'll do the same thing, get it to the point where we need to run it through the cut and emboss, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so this little one here uses the Boughs of Holly stamp set. Plus it's got the pine cones and pine needles from the Christmas season. So I'm using a little bit of everything on this one. Good thing with making cards for my husband's charity thing, I can use retired ribbon. So this little red skinny ribbon that I've used is actually retired. So that's the good thing. You can use up your stash and nothing goes to waste. Okay, so I've got a card base which is soft succulent, normal size card base. I've got a panel of early evening evergreen, and that is this time 1/4 of an inch smaller. I might as well pop that on now. Now, some of my regular customers have already expressed interest in my winter workshop in a box, which I'm just putting the final touches to the designs now. There'll be 6 projects, so there's five cards, and a couple of them, I think 3 of them are fun folds. So there's 3 fun folds, 2 normal cards, and then a set of 3 gift tags. So that's the projects that we'll be doing during the class. So I'm doing it as a craft, as a workshop in a box this time rather than in person. I think basically sort of reach a lot more people that way. So it'll be, you'll get everything you need to make the cards except for, as usual, sentiments and adhesives. That you'll get everything else, plus written PDF instructions and a video for each individual project. So that's pretty good. You'll get a video, PDF instructions, plus I will put aside an afternoon or half day to set up a Zoom later in the month of October, and we can pop them all together if you'd prefer to do them together with the rest of the group. Or with the other ladies. We'll have a Zoom for that later in the month, but you know, it will be optional. You won't have to do that. Okay, so I've popped my evening evergreen layer onto my card base, and I've popped the white panel inside. So this one here, this is a slightly smaller panel of basic white, and this is where we're going to do our stamping. Okay, so let's bring the stamp sets in. Okay, so we have the leaves of holly, which is exactly what it says on the box, leaves and holly. So there's not much cryptic about that one. It's basically what it is. And then Christmas season, which is where we're going to get our little pine cones from. So we'll pop that aside. So I'll start with the holly leaves. I'm going to use this one. So this is like a 2-part stamp. You have one that's sort of the background stamp, and then you have another one which is the sort of detail. So this is the background one we're going to start with. I will grab my soft succulent, so bringing that in as a lighter green. Pop that. So I'm going to just, the pattern will sort of run from top left to bottom right hand corner. I'm going to pop one leaf up in the corner there. Now I should have, because these are photopolymer stamps, I should have my silicone mat underneath, shouldn't I? I'm probably going to pay for that. I might grab one out. Just bear with me. I'm going to grab a silicone mat to put under, well, it's a foam mat actually, to pop under there so that they stamp more completely. Probably wouldn't have had that trouble with my Scotty dog if I'd had that underneath there. So anyway, that's fine. That's just a plain old mat from the Stamparatus. I've bought extra to use them underneath the photopolymer stamps to get a more complete stamping. I love the photopolymer stamps, but as I say, sometimes on a hard surface, they don't quite stamp completely, which we saw with our Scotty dog. So as a highlight colour, or the darker colour, I'm going to use my evening evergreen. So the colours from my card base and layers are coming through. So this is my evening evergreen. I'm going to try and line this up. It's a bit hard when I'm not over the top with my camera in the way. I'll try and line it up as best I can. Not too bad, not too shabby. And this little guy here. There we are. So that sort of highlight and shadow and sort of gives them a lovely sort of realistic appearance, I think, which is really, really nice. Then I'm going to put some holly leaves, no berries. Mistle, are they holly berries? We don't grow holly naturally here in Australia, so it's a little bit interesting to me to what they actually are, but I'm assuming they're berries. Or yeah. So what I'm going to do is use my cherry cobbler again. As I say, I'm sticking to a bit of a theme here. I'm going to grab a scrap of something because I'm not on my grid paper today. I'll grab a scrap of that white we're using. I'm actually just going to use second generation for the lighter. Again, this is a 2-part stamp. I should explain that before I go much further. So one's a background and one's a detail. So for the background one, I'm just going to use stamped off cherry cobbler as the background. And then come back in with full cherry cobbler for the detail. Here we are, so that's stamped off. It's just because I didn't want to introduce any more colours than we already had, so sometimes they look a bit busy when you've got 14 million different colours, especially if you're a bit colour challenged like me. Okay, so this is the detail stamp. You can see it's got just the outlines, and I'm going to bring that in over the top as well, or at least try to. That one was a bit off. That's okay. It's more of an idea of holly berries. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in the other stamp set we're going to use for this card. I might put the holly berries back in. We're going to use the sentiment out of that one, so we'll bring it back in a minute. Okay, so the Christmas season, we're going to use the, it also has its own holly berries, so you could have used those. I'm going to use the pine needles. I'm going to pop those in. I'm going to reuse the soft succulent, which I've never seen a pine needle actually that colour, but hey, artistic license. I'll pop that in there. And soft succulent actually changes colour quite, a lot of them do actually. You stamp it the first time and you think, oh my goodness, that's dark. But as the ink dries, it lightens up, and soft succulent definitely does that as well. So you'd stamp it and think, oh my goodness, what have I done? And come back to it a bit later on and it's lightened up nicely. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of pine cones. As last week, same, once you're on a good thing, stick to it. I'm going to use, what am I going to use? Crumb cake, and hoping got to find my crumb cake. Here we go. As I mentioned before, my crumb cake sticker at the end has gone blue. So every time I'm looking for crumb cake, the light has turned the plastic blue. So I think I sort of gloss over it thinking that it's a blue stamp set, and it's not. It's my crumb cake. Okay, oh, wrong one. So that's the Earl Espresso. I want the crumb cake first. Again, we've got ourselves a two-part stamping image. So we've got the big background one, pine cone, which I'm going to do in crumb cake, or as I famously used to call it, cake crumb. And another one up here. I know this is going to be slightly different positionings to my original card, but that's the joy of handmade, isn't it? And then in my early espresso, which I had an early espresso today. I was up quite early. I did go to bed very early last night. I was exhausted. I spent the whole week. It's very strange. It's not a morbid, slightly morbid subject, but I'm finding that it's quite difficult to work out who you have to tell when somebody passes. Trying to help mum as much as I can since dad went. Some places get told automatically, some places don't. Some places you have to do 3 things and then it flows through to them automatically, and some places you need it the death certificate certified by a JP. Some places just take a commissioner of declarations, and you don't actually know that until you go into their physical locations, and it's like, okay. And you sort of have I have this list of dominoes that I have to do in the back. I have to do that before I can do that. And then I have to tell those people who will be told by those people. It's very, very complicated. Don't think Dad quite realised what he was getting me into. Okay, when he asked me to help Mum. Okay, so that's the stamping I'm going to do on that one. As you can see with the original, I've got a little sentiment box which is going to come in there and sit over the top, and then I'm going to pop a little ribbon on as well. So again, I've got this to the point where now it's got to go through the embossing folder, and I will pop that aside and then bring everything in together to do the embossing. Okay, so that's card number 2. Okay, so card number 3, I really like this one. I love the reds. I love the reds, and as in this case, the cherry cobbler. I think it's just so striking, and so I love the bold border of this one. So anyway, let's give this one a go. Who's that? Somebody's just said your mum passed away yesterday. I'm so sorry. This is the one that comes up as Facebook user. I can't remember who you said you were last time, but I'm so sorry. If you could pop your name on there, I'd love to know. It's just such a cruel time at the moment. It's just seems like things are happening all over the place. I know a friend of mine lost a brother yesterday as well. So, yeah, it's not good. Okay, so this one, get to crafting. Now, so we've got our card base again. This one's going to be a landscape card, so we're going to do it this way. It's again 5.5 by 8.25. I have my panel for the inside, so I might pop that in now so I don't go using it by mistake. Just like that. I'll just get that done and out of the way. So, of course, well, I'm going to actually ask Stephen what he wants stamped inside. He might just want them all blank inside, or he might want Merry Christmas, or he might want, I don't know what he wants. So I'm just going to leave that for the moment. I've got a layer of, again, early espresso. So I'm going for, as I say, with these cards, I'm going for quick, I'm going for reproducible, and I'm going for low waste. So I'm actually making sure that all these layers that I'm popping together, I can get nice round numbers out of the cardstock. So it might be a combination of this one and that one, or, you know, they give me a complete sort of use up a complete piece of cardstock rather than having lots of waste. So I'm going to pop that one on there. And as I say, I've left a nice big border because I just love that red, that cherry cobbler. Okay, so now we'll bring back our little panel. So this panel here is smaller again than the early espresso, but only by a smidge. Okay, so this time we're going to use the Merriest Moments. Now this was a really popular stamp set last Christmas, so they've kept it going, which is really great. I love it when I buy a stamp set and then find that they continue it in the next catalogue. Sort of makes you think that you've backed a winner in some weird, strange way. Hey, I picked one that everyone likes. Yay. Yay me. Anyway, that's a bit funny. Things you do to go through the day. So again, same colours, going to use my cherry cobbler. I'm going to use my cherry cobbler. My husband's just got home. That was my why I stopped then, because I heard the door. I think it's my husband. Either that or it's a burglar. Okay, so this one has some poinsettias, which is as close as I'm getting to a poinsettia this year. I've been all poinsettiaed out over the last wee while. I did love the poinsettias, and let's face it, I made some lovely cards that were very well received, but yes, there was a plethora of poinsettias a couple of years ago. Okay, so I'm just going to pop there's some big ones and some little ones. So I'm just going to pop the big ones there and there. That's Judy. Okay. Judy's lost your mum. I'm so sorry, Judy. It's such a hard time. I'm there with you and I'm thinking of you. Okay, so I've got the little poinsettia here, and I'm just going to pop that in and around. So I'm trying to sort of cascade the images up around the top, sort of top left corner. So I'm going to pop the little poinsettia there, and then the smaller one slightly off. So then we're going to fill in the rest of that with some leaves and things and make that flow nicely. Lee, you have shingles. Oh, I haven't had them, but I hear that they are a nightmare. Gosh, we're in the wars at the moment, us lot. We've got, what have we got? We've got COVID, we've got shingles, we've got losses. Well, at least we've got each other. I find that when we lost my dad last month, having my crafty friends made it so much more bearable. So I thank you all for that. Okay, so I'm layering this up with the stamp set. So I've got there's a little sort of a smaller set of leaves there. I'm going to pop that in and around. Oh, what happened there? I might have to trim that off. That's actually, I've got some, must be on me, or it's on my thing. Anyway, got some issues there with some ink. Not that you guys probably can't see that, thankfully. And then I'm going to bring in, there is a big leaf as well. And I'm going to pop that in the gaps as well. Okay, yep, that's good. Now, one last thing, I'm going to grab go back to my crumb cake and just grab another leaf. Lots of leaves in this one. It's a sort of, it looks like a sort of rounder leaf in my crumb cake. As I say, I'm using all the same colours because I didn't really want to introduce too many. I'd like to sort of, they have sort of these cards to have sort of a theme about them, and the colours are sort of that theme, if that makes sense. I think that's probably enough. You know me, I'll tend to overdo it. If given the chance, I'll keep stamping forever and then not like what I see. Last thing I am going to do though is the stamp set also has some dots in it, just some sort of random snowflakey type dots. I'm going to grab a grey for this, just a nice plain grey. What have I got here? What did I use before? I'll use smoky slate. I think that's what I've got handy, and I think that's what I used on the other one. Just grab some sort of fairly neutral grey, and where I think there's a bit of a gap that needs filling to create the right shape, I'll just pop the dots in. Here we are. Okay, so that's the stamping for that one. As I say, I'm trying to get that sort of flow across the top and side of that one. One more thing. I knew there was one more thing. I'm going to pop, poinsettias have this tiny, 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 tiny little centre stamp. Just need a tiny, tiny, I'll use this one. Just a tiny little dot. It's supposed to be the centre of the flower. So I'll just lift the card a wee bit with a little bit of Daffodil Delight centre for those. There we are. And that's done. Might grab my eraser and see if I can get rid of some of that splodge down the bottom. I'll get rid of that. because that's probably got ink on it. And I will just rub that. It's a mono, what they call a mono eraser, if you haven't seen them before. Stamping Up don't have them, but I just bought that at my favourite online crafting store. And it's slightly like sandpaper, so if you're very, very, very light, you don't want to go too crazy, you can actually get rid of some ink splodges that sometimes get from when we have really inky fingers. Really inky fingers. It won't be too much of a problem here because we're actually going to pop it through the embossing folder anyway, so the texture will recover. Okay, so that's that one. That's the stamping for that one. Okay, let's move everything aside and I'll bring in the embossing, the cut and emboss and the embossing folder, and we can emboss all three of those panels now. So again, the liberating part of making these for my own personal use is that I can use retired embossing folder. So this is one of my favourites from previous catalogues called the Tasteful Textiles. If you like this one and you haven't got it, I probably suggest you have a pop around some of the retired pages on Facebook selling retired items, or as I've mentioned previously, the time-worn type stamps embossing folder is a good substitute. There's been a couple of late that give that sort of oldie worldy linen type look. I don't know if you can actually see the difference of what I've done there, but I've done it and used the technique enough for you guys to realise that I think it makes a difference anyway. Sorry, my headset's just falling off my head. Okay, so that's one. Where's the others? I've popped them all somewhere safe. Oh, I have to tell you guys, anyone who watched my video during the week, I mentioned or lamented the fact that I'd bought some priority paid stickers from the post office and I'd put them in a inverted commas safe place and promptly lost them. So anyway, I found them this morning. They were tucked away, of all places, in a card in a box of cards. It was bizarre. I don't know what I've been thinking. Anyway, I popped it into a card that I'd made and then popped it into a box with a million other cards that I'd made. And yes, must have thought that was my safe place. Don't know what my definition was, but anyway, so the good news is I found it. I haven't found the stickers for that stamp set yet that I used during the week, but hey, there's hope. Where there's hope, there's life, they say. Okay, so just this last one. This is our little Scotty dog that we'd already stamped. And now that I've got all three of these through the embossing folder, we can finish them. Okay, so that's all three. I can get rid of that now. And we can pop these little beauties together. Oh, make sure I don't lose my headset. Okay, let's do our Scotty dog first, since he's closest at hand. So we've got our card base. We've now got our embossed and stamped panel. Firstly, I'm just going to pop that just straight onto the card base. Here we are. I'm going to grab my dimensionals using my ends here. Pop our little Scotty dog on in front of that grid. Okay, that's a bit weird. He's well and truly dimensioned, isn't he? He's dimensioned within an inch of his life. He's not going anywhere, this little guy. Had our girl Ruby groomed during the week. That was a bit of an experience. More for me than for her. Well, no, I think it was an experience for her as well. It's the first grooming she's had sort of on her own since we lost her sister a couple of years ago. So, yes, it was quite a experience. I felt like I was leaving her. I took her to the lady's house, and I felt like I was leaving her at daycare. It was just terrible. But anyway, close on 2 hours later and $200 poorer, she came home and she was absolutely beautiful. So all my fears were not founded. She came home looking $1 million. So it was nice and feeling so much better without all her undercoat on. Okay, so there's our little Scotty dog sitting in front of the grid there. I'm going to pop a glue dot on just around his neck area there. And I've got one of those glue dots that would rather stick to me than cardstock. There we are. As I say, I have my little double bow here, and I've just used my bow maker to do that. If you have a bow maker or whatever, pop on to YouTube to watch somebody much better than me making those. I do make a bit of a dog's breakfast. See what I did there? That's an Australian saying. I don't know if other countries use that one. Bit of a dog's breakfast when it comes to my bows. And anyway, there's our little Scotty dog with his little red bow, just like that. So that's that one made. I'm not using any bling or anything on that one, just leaving it straight. I think it's got with the little bow. I think that is probably, pretty good. Here we go. Cool. So that's our Scotty dogs. Let's finish the rest. I'm getting buried in cards here. I'm just going to take whatever comes next. Okay, so this one. Let's bring out the panel that we've got with that one. So that's the holly leaves one. So we're going to pop that on. Don't know if I'm going to do videos this way again. Swapping around. At least I know people will watch to the end to see the card finished. Okay, so there's our holly berries and leaves. A couple of pine cones for good measure. Sentiment box. Now this one is from the seasonal dies, which are really, really nice. I like those. They go with the pine cones, I think. I think that's where they go in a bundle with those. I'm going to, though, use the sentiment from and I'm all over the shop, from the holly leaves of holly. I'm going to use the Christmas wishes, and I'm going to do it in our pretty dark green, our evening evergreen. Pop that off there, pop that there. Okay, Christmas wishes. Again, going to grab some dimensionals. There's a weird dog down the road and I can hear him, and hopefully you can't hear him. He just sits there. I think he's quite old. And the only thing he can do in his life is sit on his bed by the front gate and do just a single bark, just woof. And that's all he does. Well, I'm not sure that's all he does. He does other things as well, but all I do is hear him go woof. woof. It's like he's too old or too bored or just too sick of it to actually do anything else. He just sits there in a single woof. And he does it like all night. He does it like at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll be woken up by this ancient dog sitting there going woof, woof. And because it's the middle of the night, although he's a few houses down, in the middle of the night is the only noise. And it's like, oh, dog, go to sleep like a normal person. But anyway, he's making his mark on the world, obviously. So I've got my little ribbon here. I'm going to pop another glue dot, which hopefully will stick to there and not me. I'm going to pop that and then put the ribbon. Again, this is a double bow. I've used my bow tire to make that. And again, I'm using that red retired ribbon, which is great for using out of the stash. So there's our little thing there. I'm going to grab the festive pearls, and I'm going to use silver ones. Why use silver ones? I actually changed my mind when I saw the silver ones on there before. I might actually use the green ones. Let's try the green ones, see what we like better. So anyway, old dog, he's down there again. He's given a bit of a woof to the world. I know when our Rosie was what, 13 when she went, and I think she was getting a little bit senile, and she'd disappear into the backyard and stare at the fence and just go woof, woof, woof. So I have a feeling it might just be an old dog thing. Okay, so there's our second one. There's our leaves of holly card, which is pretty nice. And get rid of that, pop that over there. And our last one, which is our merriest moments, we'll do this one. Here's its other bits. So again, just going to get some glue. And as I say, the idea with these cards is that I can produce them quick and I can produce them the same multiple times. So that's the idea. And let's face it, if we can make our Christmas card making a bit more streamlined, it's got to be a good thing. Okay, so that one goes on there. Again, just love it. Just love that red. So I'm going to use, for the sentiment of this one, I'm going to use my punch because I love the double, here it is, the double oval punch makes things just so much easier. So you get the two shapes, your two ovals in the same punch. I've got a strip of cherry cobbler and I'm going to just slip that through under the serrated oval. So this is the backing oval, one punch there. Then I'm going to use this little scrap of basic white, and look how many scraps of these this size do we get. Oh my goodness, we get so many. Well, I do, sort of like from the offcuts of cards and things like that. So I'm going to use that for my white one. I'm going to grab the Merriest Moments stamp set, which we've just used. There's a little joy here, which fits perfectly into that double oval. I'll just grab, I've got stamps still on blocks here. Just grab that, again, with my cherry cobbler, which I think is the star of this particular card. Pop the joy into the little, not the straightest or centralist, but that's okay. Going to get the serrated oval with some glue on the back. And once I get into a roll with these, it's basically going to be a bit of a production line just stamping, embossing, and then gluing together. I may even rope my husband in to help since it's for his fundraiser. So there's our joy there, really cute. And for this one I am definitely going to use the red festive pearls, and because they really bring it out. There we are. There we are. So that's the last one. Okay, so that's his cards. That's the 5 cards I've created for his fundraising. Forgive me for sort of using those as my video material this time round. It's just this time of year I'm creating so many cards. I'd like to sort of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and show them to you as well for my regular videos. So there we are. That's the 3 we've done today. I can bring it down so you can see it. There's our 3 for today, and they're the 2 that I did last time. And that basically is his fundraising in a bucket. So if you live in Australia and you'd like to help to grab these cards to help out with the MS Swim Mega Swim, just watch out on my Facebook page or my group. If you're in group, watch out for those when I'll let you know when I'm producing them. Don't know actually. I'm thinking, I don't know if anyone's interested. You might sort of pop in the comments if you think you would be interested. If I maybe produced a PDF with the 5 cards and use that rather than the actual cards. If you actually wanted to make them yourself, that would be a good way of doing the fundraising as well. If I pop a PDF with pictures and instructions and measurements, and maybe I could sell that as well, and I could probably sell that to via PayPal. I could send that, sell that overseas as well if you're watching from outside Australia. But anyway, I'll see what interest there is in that, and I might sit down and put a PDF together with the instructions for those cards. Anyway, so that's the 5 cards for today. That's my video for you for this morning. 52 minutes. That's not too bad. Have a great Friday night, Saturday, and I will see you all again during the week. I'll talk to you later.